Hello and welcome to the official Haters Euro 2024 Daily Show. I'm your host, Aaron Goldstein, and today I'm joined by Haters Raf Tyndale and Cameron Lee from the Centre Spot podcast. A reminder that we're live every day of the tournament at 1 p.m, bringing you exclusive training clips, reports, and interviews from Germany. Let's get straight into the action today. It's a really exciting one as the hosts face 3 times winners, Spain. Boys, you have to put your life savings on this one. Who's going to win?
I mean, I think it's going to be a very good game. Two best teams of the tournament so far for me, but no host nation has ever been eliminated in a quarterfinal stage. So I think I'm going to go for Germany.
Well, I mean, that stat has got me a little bit concerned for my life savings. I said it a month before the tournament. I said it yesterday. I'll say it today, and I'll say it tomorrow. I've got Spain going all the way to the final and winning it.
You're going to say it tomorrow, even if they're out.
I'm saying it tomorrow because I think they're going to win tonight. Okay. I'm quite assured of it. But that little stat there maybe has put me a little bit off it potentially. But I think, yeah, for Spain, for me, they just look so good. Do
you think that those stats like that actually make a difference though? Like who cares if the hosts managed to get through the quarterfinals in 1980 or whatever? Do you think that has something in the players' brains today?
I definitely think that Germany will look at that and it will definitely fill them with confidence. And then also, again, it can work in the other way where Spain will look at that and be like, let's be the people that turn up here and, be the big guys that upset the apple cart, upset the party a little bit. So look, those stats, they're there because, there wouldn't have been as many tournaments that have been in the Euros for a team not to have got past the quarterfinals before. So there's obviously some sort of something there. But I definitely see, I think the Spain team is just too good for me.
The home advantage factor is going to be massive. This match is, of course, a repeat of the Euro 2008 final. Let's just have a quick reminder of how that match went. Thanks to SofaScore, who are, of course, our partners for the tournament. A reminder to download SofaScore using the QR code in the top left corner of the screen or the link in our description. Now, a quick fact about this game. Until Spain versus Croatia at this tournament, this was the last time that Spain had a match where they had less possession than their opponents. But it didn't matter. They won the game 1-0 in the final. Fernando Torres, lovely little goal, dink over Jens Lehmann, if you can remember that. They had 13 shots, 5 on target against the Germans that day. They hit the woodwork, so it could have been more. And despite Germany's possession, that Spain team were just too good. Do you remember much of that game or the Spain team in general back then?
Yeah, it was actually like the first tournament I was probably allowed to stay up and watch. And I was obviously very disappointed because England famously didn't qualify. So I had to find a new team. And I very quickly became a big fan of the Spanish. And actually you saying that there about how that's the last game since Croatia at the beginning of this tournament where they had less possession than them. Because the way I remember that team, it was very much the whole death by 1,000 passes type of strategy. So to see that from Germany was quite surprising. I remember Spain just absolutely waltzing it. 9 points in the group. The tightest they came to getting out was a penalty shootout win against Italy. But it never really looked in doubt. So yeah, what a team. And then, you've got players like Xavi, Iniesta, obviously Fernando Torres up top when he was in an unbelievable form for Liverpool at the time. So yeah, what a fantastic team to watch and very, very, very enjoyable sort of memory for me, I guess.
Raf, do you remember that team or were you a little bit too young?
A little bit young for me, but obviously 2010 is sort of my first tournament I was allowed to stay up and watch. I'm a little bit younger, but obviously, yeah, as Cam said, obviously some great players. Obviously David Villa won the Golden Boot that tournament. So, but for me, it was Iniesta. It was just made it all look so easy, didn't he? I mean, he didn't look like a sort of player that would have this sort of like flair and composure and balance, but there was just something about him.
It's crazy because I think back to that Euro 2008 team and that Spain team as a whole. You think of tiki-taka football, and the Spanish midfield has always been sensational. Nowadays, we've got ourselves Rodri in the middle of the park. But back then, they were just filled with depth. Like Fabregas couldn't really get in the team, and then when he did come in the team, he was so clutch. He was scored those winning penalties in the shootouts. But speaking of Rodri, I have a crazy statistic for you. Let's see if you can guess it. Actually, Rodri's goal against Georgia was the first goal that Spain have scored from outside the box at the Euros since when?
Oh, it can't be that long ago. I'll go maybe the group stages of Euro 2020. So the last one, surely.
It's a bit of a curve. Well, I think I'm going to go Euro 2016.
Going Euro 2016?
Yeah.
Rodri's goal against Georgia was Spain's first Euros goal from outside the box since Raul versus Slovenia in Euro 2000.
Oh my word.
Since then,
Oh my God.
Spain have scored 59 goals and won the tournament twice.
That is unbelievable. What a stat.
This is a ridiculous stat that I love football research.
Good
It's just
little
fantastic.
stat thrown in there.
Let's take a look at Rodri. Obviously, he's come in off the back of a fantastic season with Manchester City, and he's been an instrumental figure for the national team since 2018. He's played 53 matches for La Roja, 4 goals, 2 assists, he's getting a key pass every single game he plays, and a SOFA score rating of 7.43. The big thing there is, of course, his ball recoveries per game, over 6. That is kind of Busquets-esque. He's such a big part of the Spanish team and the Man City team, of course, as well. He scored 4 international goals, as I just said. Do you remember who his first international goal came against?
Top of my head, I didn't actually. Or I don't.
I can't either.
It was, of course, against Germany.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well, there you go.
That was in a 6-0 win for Spain just a few years ago. Do you think results like that linger in the German memories, or will they just be ready for the next challenge today?
I think, look, we're talking about professional footballers here, and maybe potentially if that form had continued, but I think we're looking at a completely different German side now, different management. The forms, completely picked up a little bit. They're going into this game with a solid run so far to the quarterfinals behind them. And if anything, I could think you maybe say it could work in Germany's favour as sort of a fuel, maybe inspiration. They know how good this Spanish team are, and it maybe make them step up their game a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you there, Cam. I think, completely different teams, different managers, different ideologies. Obviously, both sides have had, not maybe necessarily the same success they had sort of the early 2010s, but, they're both very positive, exciting styles of play. So I think, the Germans won't have that in their mind that they're going to lose 6-0 again because, as I said, the 2 best teams in the tournament so far, and it's going to be a cracking game.
It is crazy, though, because that 6-0 win for Spain just isn't that long ago. Morata scored a hat-trick, I believe, Manuel Neuer was in goal. So you say it's completely changed teams, but I think Gundogan and Toni Kroos started in midfield as well. It's not that long ago. I bet it's somewhere lingering in the back of their mind. And it is a bit of a shame that this match couldn't wait till the final. Ilkay Gundogan says that's exactly how the Germans are going to be treating this game anyway.
From now on, every game is a final. That's why it's called quarterfinal, semi-final, and then final. So obviously it's do or die. It's go to the next round or not. I'm sure that both teams will play like it's a final. What you guys make out of it, then it's a different story, obviously. But I think it speaks for both teams when you say that these teams are the best teams so far in the competition.
Very quickly, please do get your comments and your questions in. We will get onto them later on in the show. But just to Ilkay's point there, have these been the 2 best teams at the tournament so far?
Look, for me, I think Spain have definitely been head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of they've got such a sort of recognisable style of play. The only team I would say who sort of matched them in terms of that style of play were Austria, and famously not in the tournament anymore, unfortunately for them. I'd think Germany, Portugal, maybe even England and France, of course, too. I'd just have maybe a tier below in terms of I haven't been fully convinced by the Germans. I thought that game against Switzerland, their final group stage game, I thought maybe they were a little bit lucky to come away with something, obviously a last-minute winner, last-minute equaliser, and then in the last round against the Danish, I think there were a couple of referee decisions away from that being a very interesting finish. So I definitely think Spain are a level above everyone else so far, but Germany are definitely just not that far behind them.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Spain have definitely been probably the best team in the tournament, the team to watch, and maybe not necessarily at the forefront of people's minds coming into it. But that being said, I've been quite impressed by Germany. I think they found a way to win. Obviously, as Cam said, they did obviously draw that group stage game, and I think it was Kroos scored a 92nd minute equaliser. But that being said, championship winning teams do always find a way to win, whether it's sort of, winning 5-1 in the opening game and sort of, absolutely trouncing Scotland, or sort of, sitting back and waiting for their opportunity. And when they've had that opportunity, they've taken it. So I think, it's a big one.
I do have a quick question going slightly off topic. You say, and I fully agree with you, that Spain weren't really one of the favourites going into the tournament. But why was that? They literally won the Nations League. They won the only other thing that can identify you as Europe's best. They just won it. And no one really saw them coming into the tournament going to go and thrash everybody.
I think maybe potentially what could have worked against them here, and I'd just like to point out and say I definitely had them as one of the favourites. I've been saying it. Look, I've been saying it. I don't know how many times I want to remind everyone watching the stream and you guys here that I've got Spain to win this entire thing. For when it does happen, I want some pats on the back of the shoulder for that. But look, I think maybe what worked against them, and the same could be said for Germany too, is that they maybe been a little bit. I mean, I know they won the Nations League, but I think that's kind of just hyped up friendlies, or how most sort of football fans see that. They have been a little bit disappointing in the last couple of tournaments. Maybe not getting as far as they wanted. I think maybe that's sort of playing into people's minds. And I think potentially people got gassed on the wrong team. I'm really not sold on Portugal. I can't. I mean, we'll get onto them a little bit later, but I think like maybe people were focusing on the wrong teams potentially. For me, I think Spain. If you knew what you're talking about when it comes to football, Spain had to be right up there. For me, anyway. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got Spain in my family sweepstakes, so I was quite happy with them. But I mean, I think you've got you've got a lot of hype around France and England. Obviously, France have sort of lived up to that hype, 3 finals in their past 4 international tournament appearances. England, this crop of players is extremely difficult to ignore. I think maybe with Spain, obviously we've spoken about Rodri and people like that, but you maybe don't necessarily have those sort of headline grabbing stars as maybe your France and your England do. But I think, Luis de la Fuente has come in, sort of instilled his style of play. They sort of, really want to get lots of crosses into the box. And obviously they've got a lot of danger men, and obviously the wingers, I know we'll go and touch on them, have been very good. But I think they're putting their name on the map if it wasn't already.
Wagging his finger.
He is.
He wants to say something.
I just want to jump in on it because I completely agree with you what you've just said there, Raf. And I think it's really interesting in terms of maybe those stars in certain teams, in your France's, your Portugals, even your Germany's, and where that's sort of a little bit different to the Spain team. And I think it's working in their favour. Spain are a team. And you don't have those stars, and I think that's something that we're really seeing in terms of maybe why they're playing the most attractive football so far this tournament. So I think that's a great point.
Completely agree. Like to get England there at all?
Potentially, I mean, absolutely. But then again, too, you go back to it, and it's like, as you say, with Germany, it's all good teams get the job done. So maybe we can take that with England and give us a bit of hope for tomorrow too. Fingers crossed.
Well, Spain manager Luis de la Fuente won't be taking any risks. He certainly knows that this German side have a lot of quality.
So they have respect for us, the same as we feel for them. But in any case, I'm really not worried about what anybody says. I know our potential, I know our opponent's potential, and I know both teams within that respect that we all have. I think it's going to be an equal game. Like I said, it could have been a final of the European Championship.
Are we likely to see a bit of an overly tactical game today? What do you think, Cam?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be it's for me, it's going to be battle of the midfields. I mentioned before, Spain are very much a team who try and employ their death by 1,000 passes, try and almost ball their opposition to death in a way. And I think Germany, look, they've got their midfield themselves. With players like Ilkay Gundogan and Toni Kroos in there, they're going to have to be at the very top of their game to make sure that Germany sort of have a foothold in the game. But yeah, no, I could definitely going to be sort of very tactically focused, as most international football is, especially at this tournament too.
Yeah, completely agree. I think as soon as you get to the sort of latter stages of a competition, it all starts getting very safe, which is obviously not what us fans necessarily want to watch. Obviously, these two teams obviously very free scoring. Spain has scored 9 goals, Germany scored 10 goals, the 2 top scorers in the competition so far. But I mean, yeah, I can imagine it being quite a slim margin. Whoever comes out on top. I mean, it might go to penalties. Maybe no one will come out on top in terms of goals.
Long gone are the days of a traditional 4-4-2. Danny Carvajal is aware that this match is likely to depend on how the Germans line up to face them.
To them, but it's going to depend on if they will wait for us or if they will press up high or not. That is going to define the way we can get closer to their goal and maybe the pace of the game. And like I said before, in the end, this type of games, it's just it's all about the details and how clinical you are in front of goal.
How clinical you are in front of goal. Well, one player who's been absolutely ridiculous this summer has been Fabian Ruiz. He's I don't even know how to give words for him. In the 3 matches he's played, 2 goals, 2 assists. He's averaging 3.7 shots a game, 2 key passes a game, and recovering a lot of balls as well, almost 10 per 90. He's got a SOFA score rating of 8.77, which is, that's sensational. That means he's consistently getting above an 8, which is very, very, very impressive. I've got a question though. Do you think he's been the player of the tournament?
For me, I would say, listen, Spain have been the most convincing team. He's been the best player on the Spanish team, so I think it's hard to argue that he's not. He's got two goals, 2 assists. Obviously, that average rating there is pretty incredible. And he's had the most shots of any midfielder this competition. He's won possession the second most for the entire tournament, as we just saw there. So I mean, it's pretty difficult to argue that he's not. And he's been one of the main contributions to why they've been such a good team. And for me, it's quite hard to argue that he's not the player of the tournament.
Yeah, no, look, I completely empathise with a lot of what Raf said there. Although he's up there, but I think it's not really been a tournament where one player's fully stand out. Like, I want to give a shout out to Cody Gakpo. I thought had another fantastic game against Romania the other day.
The show, Cody Gakpo, so he'll really appreciate that.
I'm sure he did. Hi, Cody. How's it going? And then also, I think Georgia too. Their players need a shout out. Georgia's Mikhail Tadze and the goalkeeper Marma Dashvili. I think both had fantastic tournaments. I mean, look, they won't probably be the player of the tournament given how early they went out, but I think what they did for the tournament definitely deserves a shout out for me anyway.
It's kind of weird because going into the tournament, if you asked me to label the best midfielders that we're going to see on show, I wouldn't have mentioned PSG midfielders. And I think not just Fabian Ruiz, but Vitinha's been fantastic. Why don't PSG players get much credit?
Well, I think it's obviously, there's a lot of talk about sort of the French league being a farmers league. I think it's a lack of spectatorship. So a lot of people, I know a lot of, sort of British football fans will also be tuning into La Liga to see the likes of obviously Bellingham and obviously Vinicius and obviously now Mbappe. I think, nobody ever questions like the big names in the French leagues. Like, nobody questioned Mbappe, Messi and Neymar's skill while they were there. They just weren't watching. So I suppose it's just a lack of awareness about these players. And obviously, I only really think PSG are attractive because of the money, not really as a sporting challenge. So I think that's probably why. I don't think it's that they get enough credit. I think it's just a lack of people watching them.
Yeah, look, I think unfortunately, whether France like it or not, there is a second-rate league compared to the top sort of 4. I think the competition is so minimal in terms of that week-to-week game that you're playing. And these top quality players like Ruiz, you really need to be higher than 80%, to go ahead and just win the league by 15 points or wherever it is. And I think you see it actually in the Premier League and the final stages of the Champions League, when top quality meets top quality, just the level of the game massively increases because you have to be that much better. So I think if you're playing against good players or playing with good players, it can really sort of raise the level. So I feel like that's maybe where PSG get done that disservice. They need another sort of Arab billionaire to come in and buy another team in France and raise the level for them, basically.
It will improve football. Well, if Germany are to keep a clean sheet today, they're also going to need to keep out Lamine Yamal. Julian Nagelsmann is really aware of that.
Players who are that stable at this age. But of course, I guess he has a very good surrounding. He needs a lot of people around him who have his back. Also at Barcelona, I think you better ask this question to Ilkay, how it works at club level. But of course, he has big qualities, is very good in the one-on-ones, and he's only 16 years old. So there are also big chances for our players in that regard to counter him.
Not sure if you know this because it hasn't really been mentioned very much, but Lamine Yamal's actually 16 years old. Do you think he might be a slightly bit overplayed?
I think it's difficult. I know Cam's going to go on a little bit more sort of the stats side of things and talking about players who sort of started their career that old. I think it's very difficult, and obviously, he'll still be developing in terms of physically as well. So I think it's a lot to ask him, but obviously he is very good and he's one of Spain's best talents, not just one of their sort of upcoming talents, but he is one of their better players anyway. So that's why he's starting. It's he's not being rivaled too much on that position on the flank. So I think, but I'll leave it over to Cam for the more stats side.
Here we go.
Look, every time I watch this Yamal guy, I'm just blown away by the fact that he's 16. I just cannot get back because I just personally go back to when I was 16, and let me tell you, I was not playing for Spain in the Euros. But the thing is, though, it's like, look, it goes without saying this kid's going to be around for the next 10, probably 15 years. But in terms of that sort of prolonged career, that most players would expect maybe to play that long. But it's sad seeing these types of players finish their careers at 30, 31, and then seeing some players go on until they're sort of closer to 40. And I just I was watching the Wayne Rooney documentary the other day. I don't know if you've seen this on BBC, but it was basically all about him at Euro 2004 when he was just 16. Picked up a big injury at that tournament, and that was sort of something that came back for him throughout the next sort of 7 to 8 years for him too. Another sort of player who maybe finished a little bit earlier was Cesc Fabregas, Theo Walcott, Big Arsenal theme here, actually. Jack Wilshere too, Raf, one of our favourites, I'm sure, as a Spurs fan. But then also it works the other way too, because actually James Milner started when he was just a 16, 17-year-old, and I think he's still playing today, but he's again closer to 40. So it's something that I'm very aware of, and I don't like seeing maybe these youngsters being sort of overused, as it can definitely sort of impact the longevity of their career. But he's such a good player and he's so important to Spain. You can see what it's done. But I just say be careful, Spain. Look after him.
Yeah, take care of you.
I'm sure Luis de la Fuente will be listening.
The problem is that nowadays there's so much football being played. I mean, now the Champions League has 8 group stage games instead of 6. That's exactly what we wanted, more group stage games. But look, Lamine Yamal's a freak. He's 16. 21 is still very young. Germany have their own young superstar in Yamal Musiala. He's probably been their standout performer so far this summer. In the tournament so far, he's played 4 matches, scored 3 times, averaging just under 2 shots a game, getting a key pass every single game. His successful dribbles haven't been that good, but you can't just forget about it when he's always scoring. A SOFA score rating of 7.5. I'm going to ask you the tough question here, Musiala or Bellingham?
For me, I'm sticking with our Birmingham boy. I'm going for Bellingham. I think, don't get me wrong, Musiala is amazing, and he's been one of the standout performers of this tournament, not just in that Germany team. But I think Bellingham, how we played this year for Real Madrid, and sort of, in a probably slightly harder league. Sorry, Jamal, please don't come on to me about that. But I think, they're both great talents. I think Bellingham's a little bit more developed. And I think he maybe offers slightly more because he can sort of chip in the defensive end as well. But I mean, it's a rock and a hard place, really. Neither choice is going to be bad.
Yeah, it's such a tough one to call. It really is a 50-50. For me, I've gone Bellingham too. That's mainly that I just feel like he's maybe slightly more developed. And also I feel like maybe in what he's done so far in his career, potentially, arguably fair to say, he's achieved more. I think also what you've got to remember with Bellingham too, it's not just the unbelievable ability he has on a football pitch, it's those leadership skills, it's the way he speaks. And I feel like he could probably be England captain right now. Musiala, I haven't maybe heard him speak as much as Bellingham, but I feel like maybe Bellingham edges on that too. I mean, Birmingham retired his number at the age of 16. That for me, I've just never quite got over. So I think that speaks to massively speaks to what sort of player he is. But yeah, it's such a tough one to call. It really is a rock between a rock and a hard place.
Today is obviously a very big day for British politics. And just if I quickly go back to politics for a second, we could have had Musiala in the England team as well if it wasn't for Nigel Farage and Brexit. Apparently, that's the reason he chose Germany over England. Not what I said. Sky Sports, there's an article out there. The Spanish defence has conceded just once so far this tournament. Do you think they have it in them to keep a clean sheet today? Where do you see the key battle really being?
Yeah, look, I've mentioned it briefly before. It's all about the midfield here for me. If Gundogan and Toni Kroos can do what they have to really sort of stop that death by 1,000 passes, then Germany have an absolute fantastic run. Also, you've got to remember with the, as Vas mentioned before, with the home advantage, with the crowd behind them, that will definitely give them the extra 5% they need. Just very briefly, actually, it's interesting that sort of feeds into this. Nader Manua did a great piece online the other day about maybe why this tournament's been a bit more tactical and a little bit more maybe sort of that a little bit less of that free-flowing football we'd all like to see. And if you think about it, some of these players will be playing their 60th, 70th game, and that's obviously going to have a massive impact on their ability to sort of approach the games in the way they would like, sort of fully, sort of 100%. And so I think for the team to be successful, they're more focusing on, are we tactically sound, are we defensively sound, and then looking to sort of implement that free-flowing style of football. So I definitely think that would lead to the midfield battle being the absolute sort of crucial part of this game.
Yeah, for me, completely agree. I think the midfield is going to be where a big portion of this game is won. But I also think, as I mentioned earlier, the flanks for Spain are massively important. They're averaging over 16 open play crosses per 90 minutes, which is quite insane when you think about it. And obviously, they've got quite a few danger men in the middle. You've got obviously Morata, who always seems to score for Spain, really. So obviously you've got Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal, who we've just touched on, versus sort of the German fullbacks. You've got Kimmich and Mittelstadt or Raum, who played in the round of 16. They're both very capable in that left back position. But I think that's definitely an area where Spain are going to be looking to exploit. Because I think if you looked at this Germany team before the tournament started, you probably would have said fullbacks might have been their slight weakness compared to obviously centre halves. They've obviously got Tara and Rudiger, who have obviously both played very well and are obviously very experienced at both club and international level. But yeah, I think definitely the midfield is one to watch as well.
Everyone's talking about the midfield battle. Today could be the last time that we ever see Toni Kroos, at least playing football. I don't think he's going to go Jay Slater on us. But let's look back through his fantastic career. With SofaScore, in his 830 matches, he's got 79 goals, 182 assists, and 34 trophies. That is since playing for Germany, Bayer Leverkusen, Bayern Munich, and Real Madrid. He's won the World Cup, 4 La Ligas, 1 Copa del Rey, 6 Club World Cups, 4 Supercopa de Españas, 6 Champions Leagues, 3 Bundesligas, 3 DFB Pokals, which is the German FA Cups, 5 Super Cups, and 1 DFL Super Cup.
He's averaging two trophies a season on that. That is just absolutely insane. Sorry to interrupt you there, but
No,
that's
it
just blowing my
is
socks off a little
absolutely
bit.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
One thing he is missing, though, is the Euros. Would Euro 2024 be the perfect way for Toni Kroos to bow out?
How could it not be? Home crowd too. It's Cinderella-esque, isn't it? I mean, look, he had a fantastic
Does he
end.
have an ugly stepsister?
Maybe not. I'm sure that can be arranged, for the story. But look, with the Champions League final towards the end of last season too, winning the league with Real Madrid. What a trio of trophies to sign out for. But yeah, I mean, what a career, what a player, and he will be sorely missed going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as Cam said, what a better way to end it in front of your home crowd in, well, obviously your home country. Yeah, I mean, he's been absolutely amazing his entire career. Obviously, that Euros has eclipsed him, so maybe, just maybe, he's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, thinking, if there's one thing I need to win before, hanging up the boots, obviously it's that. So yeah,
almost makes you think, is it written in the stars potentially? Yeah, the one trophy he hasn't won.
Fairy tale
ending.
ending.
It's going to be the last tournament
He
for
hasn't
him.
won a Johnson's Paint Trophy.
Or the Audi Cup.
Fantastic point.
Don't forget the Audi Cup.
Look, he will only get the chance to lift the trophy if Germany win tonight. So let's have your predictions, and I want as much detail as possible.
Yeah, so I've gone Spain. As I've said before, I think Spain are going to win the entire tournament, so therefore Spain will win this game. I've gone 2-1 Spain, but it won't be easy. I see Germany going 1-0 up with a Musiala goal first half, and then in the second half, the Spanish will come back with a late winner from Morata and also Ruiz getting the equaliser. So,
well, I'm going the reverse. I'm going Germany 2-1 Spain, but I think after extra time, I think Musiala and Gundogan. I think Gundogan might score the winner because I think he has a habit of stepping up, doesn't he? I think Fabian Ruiz, just like Cam, I think he'll chip in with a goal. But I think, yeah, so Musiala and Fabian Ruiz to score in the first 90, and then Gundogan stepping up in extra time.
I somewhat agree with you, but you heard it here first. This game is going to extra time. It's going to finish 1-1 in 90 minutes. Williams will put Spain ahead. Ilkay Gundogan is going to get an equaliser. It's going to go to penalties, and Toni Kroos is going to miss his.
Wow.
And Spain are going to go through. You
Wow.
heard it here first. Raf, are there any comments coming through that we should touch on?
There are. So first of all, we have a poll, which is between Spain versus Germany. We've got quite a few votes coming in, and actually it's quite a resounding, they're all siding with UCAM, with 61% of people deciding that Spain are going to win it and 39% deciding Germany. But I mean, we love an underdog. I mean, I wouldn't quite say they're the underdog, but it's going to be a great game. And then we also have NI has said he's tipping Spain and France to win today. What do we think?
I actually completely agree with you, NI. I know we're about to touch on the France-Portugal game, but yeah, no, I think both of those shouts are pretty spot on.
And absolutely, we've got just one more. We've got Vendant Tawari, who I know is a loyal listener too, saying, "Do you think Portugal versus France will be a late scoring thriller?" Now we are going to touch on it a little bit more, but just a quick answer there.
I don't know. I was a little bit under. I've been a little bit underwhelmed by both teams here. But I don't know. Maybe that could be, as we're getting later into the tournament, that sort of like that need to win, that desperation sort of steps up a little bit. I mean, I don't want to touch on it too far, but I do have a France winning 2-0 actually in my prediction. So maybe a disappointing result for Ronaldo.
Look, in the evening, we have yet another former final, which we've touched on just there. One you actually might remember, Raf.
Thank
France
you very
versus
much.
Portugal.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, 2016. Let's have a look through that Euro 2016 final, which obviously Portugal won in France. So it doesn't bode well for the hosts to when they get to the final. You see France lost in 2016, Portugal lost in 2004. In that game, France had lots of possession. They had lots of shots, many of them on target. But Cristiano Ronaldo got substituted after 25 minutes from that disgraceful challenge from Dimitri Payet. I'm not sure Ronaldo will ever forgive him. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many accurate passes you can complete. It doesn't matter how many times you can get into the final third, how many corners you have. What matters is how many goals you score. And Portugal did that. Eder in the final. I don't think he's scored a goal since.
I don't know where he's been since.
Literally. He's probably in Tenerife with Jay Slater. Was Euro 2016 your favourite Euros?
It was a fantastic Euros. It was the first one with 24 teams, and that sort of brought in sort of countries that hadn't had the opportunity to play in them before. Iceland, Northern Ireland, and Wales sort of come to mind in terms of teams that really sort of came out of nowhere to have fantastic tournaments. I think that tournament, that final two, was what a moment that final was. Ronaldo getting injured first few minutes, comes off the pitch, and then thinks, you know, I might be the best player in the world or one of the best players in the world, but I'm now going to be the best manager in the world, and basically tactically organises Portugal to a win. I thought, for me at that point in time, that really actually pushed Ronaldo above Messi in terms of the go-to player. Potentially what's happened over the last 8 years since maybe changed it the other way. But what a moment for Ronaldo. For me, they're my favourite ever Euros, and it's purely down because it was the first time I'd ever seen England play every single game at an international competition was Euro 2020 or Euro 2021. Look, a bit disappointed by what happened with COVID and like fans not being allowed in stadiums and stuff like that, but purely on a selfish reasons because England played so well and got so far on it. It's got to be Euro 2020 for me.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, going back to what you said, I wish Iceland hadn't had such a successful tournament in 2016.
Yeah, maybe a little too much.
But I mean, in terms of pure footballing perspective, I think that was obviously an amazing tournament. But obviously, you know, England being knocked out in the round of 16 left a slightly bitter taste in the mouth, if I can say so. But yeah, I think for me, Euro 2020 after COVID and sort of, you know, everyone being able to be back together and watch it together, and obviously England's amazing runs to the final. I think that Luke Shaw moment where he scored in the 3rd minute. I mean, if only that will happen again. Fingers crossed. Well, I don't think Luke Shaw will be scoring, but something along those lines would be good.
We will see tomorrow. Look, this current period of football, to me at least, feels like the changing of the guard. Ronaldo and Messi are on their way out. This will surely be the last time that we see Cristiano Ronaldo at the Euros, and most likely the last time that he will ever face one of his biggest fans, Kylian Mbappe. We heard from Kylian Mbappe about facing his idol.
No, I think that it's about appreciation rather than envy. What he was, what he is. I don't really envy. I'm just admiring. I like to admire the great player that he is, the one of a kind. There will never be another Cristiano Ronaldo. He has shaped football. He inspires and has inspired generations. He has scored goals. He's got cups. His CV speaks for itself.
I love how Mbappe has played with Lionel Messi, but he still absolutely loves Ronaldo. You can tell he just loves Ronaldo more. As of today, 5th of July, 2024, do you think Mbappe has any chance of having a career as good as Ronaldo's?
Look, I think we have been so blessed over the last sort of 10, 15 years. We've seen footballing excellence in the form of Ronaldo, only bettered by footballing perfection in the form of Messi, right? And I think so for Mbappe to try and reach these levels, we're talking about, you know, stats and records that we have never seen in football before. So it's a really high bar for him. For me, I think, look, Mbappe could probably match Ronaldo, but I can't see him exceeding, especially in terms of legacy too. I think what Ronaldo's done for the game and the longevity of his career means that he might always have his nose in front of Mbappe, unfortunately.
Peter Drury, if he was listening to that, oh my God, he'll be quaking in his boots.
Wow. I just came up with that right now, mate, actually. I just thought I was thinking of a couple of lines there.
Ex-HaytersTV man as well.
Come on.
Very good.
So, yeah, I mean, I think for me, I think internationally, Mbappe can definitely eclipse what Ronaldo's done. I mean, arguably he already has with the World Cup. I think,
great point.
Obviously, quite unlucky to not have that second, but obviously Lionel Messi does what Lionel Messi does. I think. Listen. When Ronaldo joined Real Madrid, he was 24. He'd won a Champions League with United. He'd won a Ballon d'Or as well. Mbappe's 25 now. Obviously, you know, we spoke about earlier, maybe French honours don't necessarily hold the same weighting as obviously Ronaldo was tearing up the Premier League as a young winger before he moved to Real Madrid. I think the future of Real Madrid is very, very bright. I think they could definitely go and sort of replicate, if not better, that sort of, you know, 3 times in a row winning Real Madrid team for the Champions League. So, and I think because he's now on the centre stage, he's going to be the best player for Real Madrid. I said it. Sorry, Jude Bellingham. He's going to be the main man. So I think he's going to be more likely to be in those sort of serious Ballon d'Or contentions. But I think the levels that Ronaldo and Messi set with nobody else bar sort of Luka Modric touching that Ballon d'Or for, you know, years, it's pretty hard to replicate. And I don't think he's going to quite get there, just because even, you know, however far into his career he is now, Ronaldo had already done so much.
I know, that's the thing. Like, I think Mbappe is absolutely fantastic. Is he going to win 5 Ballon d'Ors? Probably not. Is he going to win 5 Champions Leagues? Probably not. The only thing I can really see him doing that better than Ronaldo is winning more La Ligas. If he stays at Real Madrid for 3, 4, 5 years, you'd expect he'll probably win more than 2 La Ligas, which is all Ronaldo won, which is mental, by the way, when you think about it. Winning the Champions Leagues, but not La Liga.
That's crazy.
Ronaldo's record for Real Madrid in La Liga was 311 goals, notching 95 assists in just 292 matches.
That is insane.
Mbappe has a lot to live up to, and I think people forget that. The big question, though, sticking on Ronaldo, great topic, Cristiano Ronaldo. Is he keeping his place in the Portugal team due to his past career, or does he actually warrant his position in the lineup? We did see him in training yesterday afternoon.
Ronaldo at the moment.
Yeah, so look, in terms of Ronaldo, I think he's got to play. He's just got to play. I think that game against Slovenia the other day after the penalty miss, I think everyone rightly questioned, the game's still going on, mate. Why are we crying? You're meant to be a leader in the team, and that's what you're there for. Don't know, obviously, you've got the experience, the know-how, but those younger players in the team look up to you as a leader, and the last thing they need is see, their probably all-time hero still on the pitch crying. It did potentially, if they did go out, that potentially you could very easily point at that. So he needs to sort that out. I appreciate, it's probably one of it's his last dance, it's his final hurrah. I can appreciate how the emotions can maybe get the better of somebody. But, he needs to hold it together, because look, what happens when he does put it together, he sets something in that penalty shootout, he feints the keeper a little bit and puts it in the bottom left corner, having just missed a penalty against one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So, he's still got it. He uses class, and he absolutely has to play. I feel like, he'll be one of the reasons that could potentially drag Portugal through to the final and, to glory if they get that far.
I'm not sure I quite agree. I think before the tournament, one of the first shows, I was saying that obviously 44 goals in 45 games for Al Nassr this season. If it was that easy, we would all be doing it. So he's obviously, still a very, very prolific goal scorer. And don't get me wrong, I think, he's still one of Portugal's best options. But it hasn't quite happened for him this tournament. He's not in that legendary club that Xherdan Shaqiri is in, of scoring the last 6 international tournaments. I think his ego nearly saw them crash out of Euro 2024 against Slovenia. I think he was basically putting his personal gain and his desire for records over their collective gain. And I think it nearly cost them. He's very lucky that Diogo Costa bailed him out and sort of spared his blushes. I think he's always been quite a self-centered player. We know that about Ronaldo, but that's okay when you're putting up the numbers he was for club and country. It's not quite happening, but that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on and scores the winner today. We've actually got Cristiano Ronaldo in the chat saying Portugal are going to have a 2-1 win here. And so you never know. I'm imagining he's expecting a Ronaldo brace. But, he'll be, this will be a bit of a revenge game.
I can't believe he's watching the show.
I know.
Thanks so much.
It's crazy. But I think this will be a little bit of a revenge game for him, obviously. I don't think necessarily the missed penalty characterized the performance. I think there are a lot of other things you can turn to that probably are more telling about him and his character. But he's going to want to score, and I just don't want that to be the reason that they crash out of the tournament.
Yeah.
Look, Mbappe is known to be a massive Cristiano Ronaldo fan, but I don't think anybody realized just how big a fanboy Roberto Martinez was until the tournament started. He spoke in Ronaldo's defense once again yesterday afternoon.
Is always every day seems a new day. It's significant to see a player that has won everything, a player that has a huge amount of records in terms of number of games for the national team, number of goals, and the freshness that he brings is surprising. So for us as a national team, is an example, someone that he wants to win every day, someone that he wants to compete every day. So when you got a player that committed, forget about what he's done in the past, but that committed on today, you feel privileged.
Mbappe, along with the entire French team, are yet to score from open play at Euro 2024. In fact, the only Frenchman to do so is Spain's Lenormand. Have you been disappointed in Mbappe so far this summer, or do you think he's saving himself for the latter stages?
Yeah, look, I think France have been a little bit underwhelming this tournament. And I would go back to that point I mentioned earlier about, this it's, the 60th, 70th game for a lot of these players. And potentially, a group stage game against Austria, they might not be getting themselves that pumped up for, which, is sad to see, but that's maybe sort of to do with the footballing calendar rather than sort of Mbappe himself. Saving himself, look, he's a professional footballer, so you'd hope he's given absolutely everything, but maybe it's potentially a little bit of, let's be safety first. That's how I approach the game, and maybe that's impacting, what Mbappe's output.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I think obviously as a professional footballer, I'm not saying I am. You probably, you'd hope that they're coming into the tournament in the mindset you're going to give it Euro for 8 games. If you make the final, that's how many games you play, I'm pretty sure. But he's been disappointing, but also France as a collective going forward have been disappointing. And obviously, let's not forget he's wearing a mask. And I've seen, him talking about that. It does hinders your peripheral vision. He says that sort of sweat gets clogged up. I don't want to go into details, but I'm sure it's not very pleasant. But France's attack does run through Mbappe and sort of Griezmann. And I think, if that's not quite clicking, then that probably is quite worrying. He was obviously one of the favourites for the Golden Boot. And I'm not saying he might not still get there. He's scored a hat-trick in a World Cup final. So, God knows what he might do. But it hasn't really clicked for them so far. But so, yeah, maybe a little bit disappointed. But you never know. He can always turn it around.
Bernardo Silva spoke to the media last night to remind us all that this game isn't all about Cristiano Ronaldo and Kylian Mbappe.
And Cristiano, it's about Portugal and France. But definitely two unbelievable players on different stages of their careers. Cristiano, one of the best players that's ever played the game. Kylian, still going through the middle of his career. But most important thing is that it's not about them. It's about Portugal and France. And Portugal, we as a team, we want to qualify to for the semi-finals.
Look, France may not have been flying going forward, but they have been pretty solid at the back. This is their first tournament since Euro 2008 without Hugo Lloris in between the sticks. And Mike Maignan has taken his place and been pretty solid. With SofaScore, we have his stats since his France debut. A reminder before I go through this, that if you're not downloading SofaScore, I don't really know what you're doing with yourself. 20 matches for the national team. He concedes an average of a goal every other game. 12 clean sheets. 2.2 saves per game and a rating of 7, just over 7, which is good. He's in the green, which is a very good thing for golf and apparently with your SofaScore ratings as well. Has Maignan been good, or does he just have the easiest job in the world because he's got William Saliba in front of him?
Yeah. Look, Saliba, obviously, he's a fantastic defender. I've been very impressed by him, but not only for Arsenal last season, but also I think he's actually stepped up quite. Their defence this tournament so far, France's has been pretty impressive. Also, I mean, look, Hugo Lloris got a massive soft spot for him, obviously with his history with Tottenham. But Mike Maignan, I am so impressed by this guy. I think he's unbelievable. My first sort of interaction with him, don't know if you remember this, Raf, when we played AC Milan in the Champions League round of 16 a couple of seasons ago. It was a terrible performance from Spurs. But
terrible performance from Spurs? Are you serious? That is shocking.
Yeah, it wasn't too shocking for me, but what I was shocked by the times we did manage to go forward, I saw him make 3 or 4 saves that absolutely blew my mind. And then I saw him against Inter Milan. I think they played in the semi-finals a couple of rounds later. Again, unbelievable. So I think, and those stats you've just said there, a goal every other game, 12 clean sheets out of 20, really, really fantastic numbers, and definitely a goalkeeper I think can go on to achieve a lot in his career. Obviously helped by Saliba in front of him too.
I do agree with you, Cam. I think he's a really good replacement for Lloris, who obviously was so good for them for so many years.
Sure.
But as you say, Aaron, he hasn't been tested too much, and that is thanks to the French defence. But let's not just talk about Saliba. I know that's what every Arsenal fan ever only wants to do. But Upamecano, Koundé, who I know we'll touch on in a second, and Theo Hernandez have all been very good. Theo Hernandez had an incredible challenge in the penalty area versus Belgium in their round of 16 game. I think we can't not give them their flowers as well. So yeah.
I mean, can I just say I haven't seen a replacement this good for Hugo Lloris since Vicario came into Spurs last summer. So
completely agree.
See the France are on it.
I just find it mental that he's been in that France lineup since the World Cup 2010. It's been so long. Look, I can talk up William Saliba all day long.
We know. We know.
But he hasn't been the only French defender that's been outstanding this tournament. Barcelona fullback Jules Koundé was man of the match against Belgium in the last round. Let's have his stats with SofaScore. So far at the Euros, 360 minutes played, 2.5 key passes per game, 1 big chance created. He's winning just over half of his duels, which is pretty decent. Getting up and down that right-hand side, 2.5 tackles a game, getting into the final third 7 times per game. You see on that heat map, he is very high up the pitch. It's sort of right wing-backy, right wingery, more than just solid defensive right back. And he's in the green, which means he's doing well. 7.45 is his average rating. Look, Koundé is likely to be up against Rafa Leao today. Do you think he's good enough defensively to keep him out?
Look, I think it's for me. This is more a question on Rafa Leao. He is actually one of my favourite players in the world at the moment. Again, one of those players I sort of first probably came across when Spurs played in the Champions League a couple of seasons ago, and he absolutely rinsed us, absolutely destroyed us. He looked unstoppable. When this boy gets going, he's like an absolute bullet train. So Koundé's going to have to be at its absolute best. We've just gone through France's defence, so they've got players around him that I know can step up. I think Saliba can match his pace if needs be. Theo Hernandez is obviously looking very defensively solid. So within that defence, and obviously Mannion in goal can get you out of trouble if he needs to. But definitely keep an eye for Leao today because I think he's an absolutely unbelievable player.
I mean, yeah, I'd agree with that. I think he's very dangerous. I think in a way you could sort of argue him and Doku are quite similar players. They're obviously both very tricky, both very fast. I think Leao's probably slightly got more quality, a bit more experience. But obviously Koundé passed the test with Doku. He obviously got man of the match versus Belgium. But as Cam says, he's going to need to be on his game and maybe not necessarily be getting so far up the pitch because he does not want to be caught in a foot race with Rafa Leao. But he'll be coming into this full of confidence. He shut down Doku, who's obviously, he's been very good for City this year. Obviously, very tricky, as I've said, very skillful. And Leao is just going to be more of the same, really, if not more quality, really.
Well, the Portugal team has its fair share of attacking talent, but they're going to have to be pretty good at the back as well today. The last person on paper you'd want defending against Kylian Mbappe would be a 41-year-old, right?
Yeah, no, look, completely. With especially after given Pepe's mistake the other day that nearly sent Slovenia through if it wasn't for Šeško missing an absolute clanger there. But the thing is about Pepe too, look, don't get me wrong, pace is a fantastic weapon to have in the arsenal of any footballer. But I think the most important thing that a footballer can have is footballing intelligence and experience. And if you're good at if you can position yourself well on the football pitch and understand the game, that can really sort of cut down the impact that any sort of a pacey player can have on you. So look, I think Pepe's going to be a bit more switched on tonight. A little bit more focused than he was the other day. I think maybe got a little bit sort of lost concentration for a second there, which you obviously cannot do against this very potent French attack. So look, I mean, he wouldn't be my starting choice centre back, to be honest with you, if it was up to me. But I think he brings so much again with leadership and sort of understanding of the game that he can definitely have something to this defence for sure.
Well, I mean, we say potent French attack, but they haven't exactly showed that so much. I think, yeah, definitely. I think his intelligence is obviously a massive plus for him. But if he gets caught in a foot race with Mbappe, it could be quite a long day for him. So I think, yeah, that's all I'd say. Really.
Let's take a look back through Pepe's fantastic international career. He's obviously won the Euros in 2016, 140 matches, 8 goals, 4 assists, always getting his clearances in, 1.4 tackles a game, 1.79 interceptions per game, and he's in the green. He's a good player. Where does Pepe rank for you amongst the best centre-backs of all time?
For me, I mean, look, there's obviously been so many, but I mean, in terms of what he's achieved in his career, I think there's definitely an argument for top 5, top 10. I mean, he did actually get man of the match in the Euro final against France, that game that we with Eder scored the winner. Obviously, so successful at Real Madrid. And he's played till he's 41 too, which I think says something in himself. So for me, definitely top 5, maybe top 10 if I'm being a little bit harsh on them.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think definitely top 10. Obviously, was a mainstay in Real Madrid and Portugal's teams for a lot of successful years. Very intelligent, very dominating, and obviously rolled back the years versus Arsenal earlier this season, which I was so annoyed to see you just scraped through. But obviously Bayern sorted you out around later. But yeah, I think he's definitely top 10, and obviously he's still doing it in his 40s, which is very impressive.
Modern football sees players utilised in all sorts of ways. Defenders are expected to attack. Attackers are expected to press. João Cancelo is someone who rarely fails to impress, except for maybe Pep Guardiola. Let's take a look through how Cancelo has been performing since he got shunned out of that Man City team. He's obviously been playing for Bayern Munich and Barcelona. 5 goals and 11 assists in his 63 matches. Final third entries, he's always getting into that final third. He's very dangerous going forward, even as a defender. Very successful with his dribbles as well. Look, 61.3% and a SofaScore rating of 7.2. If you're interested in finding out stats of any of your favorite footballers, then download SofaScore using the QR code in the top left or the link in the description. Now, do you think Cancelo has any chance of regaining Pep's trust and getting back into that Man City team? He's not returning to Barcelona.
Look, I do fear for João Cancelo's long-term City career. The main reason being not that he's a fantastic footballer, but I think maybe the way Pep's sort of approaching his defensive structure has been slightly changed. I think we're maybe seeing more sort of like 4 centre-backs and those sort of wing-backs there. So I think that might sort of be a trouble for him to do. And I don't know, maybe I could be completely wrong here, Raf, but you very rarely see sort of players sort of be that hot, blow cold with Pep and then sort of come back in again. Normally once you're dead with Pep, it's normally a game over for you. Or am I wrong in saying that?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm going to talk more in terms of sort of the attackers. I mean, obviously you think about Grealish back to that treble winning season, obviously a mainstay in that team. Then obviously this year he's barely featured, and obviously Jeremy Doku was taken in. Obviously Foden was a bit hit and miss, wasn't always in that starting lineup a few seasons ago, and obviously he's absolutely won back Pep's trust, and he's gone on to win Premier League Player of the Year this season. So I think it's definitely possible. I think, as Cam says, though, it is a bit, the defensive line is a slightly different kettle of fish. So I think Pep, obviously you've got a lot of players. Obviously, you've still got Kyle Walker, Josko Guardiola, Akanji, Ake. They're all very versatile. They can play sort of in a number of positions. So I think time will tell. Time will tell.
So, France versus Portugal. Let's have your prediction.
Yeah, I think this will be a France win for me. And I think this is the day that Mbappe shows up. I think the first goal will be a penalty. I think, we spoke about that pace. Maybe the defence for Portugal might not be able to quite handle them. I think they'll give away a penalty. And then I think Mbappe will close the game in the second half with a brace.
That's exactly what I've written down as well. France 2-0 Portugal, Mbappe brace. But just to end off, our poll actually, I think, might be disagreeing. We've actually got 68% of people thinking Portugal going to take this, and 32% of people thinking France are. So, I mean, we've got a lot of disagreeers with the HaytersTV panel, but time will tell.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you as well. I'm going to go for a 1-0 Portugal win. Cristiano Ronaldo header.
Okay,
It's happening. Are there any comments coming through before we close off the show?
We've got a couple. We've got Vendant Tawari talking about the whole Messi Ronaldo debate, and basically just saying there are only a few games left in their legendary careers, and let's just enjoy them and not debate them too much. But I think that's quite a nice way to end. And he says, let's love them before their emotional goodbye.
That is so sweet. We are seeing so many players. So many players come and go. We also saw Jan Vertonghen bow out from his international career as well, in very sad fashion. And that leaves us to bow out today. That's it for today. I cannot wait for today's fixtures, but I'm equally excited to see you tomorrow at